Right? I want to start off by giving all honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. I want to give double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone for teaching us this truth. And I want to say shalom to the brothers and sisters that are in this truth. Shalom.
Shalom.
All right, we're back with another lesson. And I'm going to title this one, From Kings to Slaves. All right, from kings to slaves. And this one's going to be talking about Esau, right? The so-proclaimed white man, the so-called proclaimed white man, okay, that is ruling the earth right now, okay? Which we know that he was raised up by Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai to serve its purpose, okay? And ultimately, return to his natural estate, which is to be a servant, okay? So from kings to slaves, all right? And as we know, these people are the rulers of the earth, okay? If you look at, the EU, okay, the United Nations and all that, they're mostly Edomites, okay? You got America, all right, which is the hammer of the earth, all right? Edomites run this place, okay? You got Europe, all right? One of the major players, okay? With Germany, France, Spain, Britain, so on and so on, all right? They're also the top leaders of the earth. You got Rome, the Pope, all these people, okay? All right? You got the state of Israel, not the Israelites, because the Israelites are the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, and you speckled birds, okay, that are scattered through the four corners of the earth. But the state of Israel that was, given to Amalek, all right, which they call themselves the Jayish today, all right? They rule the earth today as well, which they are so-called white people, all right? We got Russia, okay, which is going to help bring in the destruction, all right, of their rulership, okay? They are Edomites as well, okay? So, the earth is being ruled, okay, by the so-called white man, by Esau, all right? But their destiny is to become slaves, all right, after in the kingdom for 1,000 years, all right? And then that genocide is going to play out, as it says in Obadiah 1 and 18, right? So let's start off with the book of Job, chapter 9 and verse 24, okay?
This is the book of Job, chapter 9 and verse 24. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked.
So the earth is given into the hand of the wicked, okay? And I just explained to you who the major players are. If you look at the banking families, okay, they're all so-called white people, Edomites, the elites, right? You got the DuPonts, the Gettys, you got Rockefeller, Rothschild, okay, so on and so on. There's 13 families, all right? Look them up, okay? They're the faces, all right, behind the curtains, all right? The real puppet masters on the earth, okay? So the earth is given into the hand of the wicked, and how we know who the wicked is, we always bring it out, okay? It's Malachi chapter 1, verse 4, okay? Go ahead.
He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he?
All right, so the judges would be the Israelites, starting off with Yahushai, okay? And what picture do you see today on the earth, okay? You see that picture of that white image, all right, of an Edomite, okay, that they call Jesus, all right, which his real name is Cesar Borgia, okay? This is how they covered the faces of the judges, okay? They paint all the saints white, all right? All the angels white, okay? It was called iconoclasm, okay? You could look that up, all right? This is what the so-called white man did, all right? Part of the great deception through the Renaissance period, right? The revival of the Roman Empire, which is here in America, all right? And it says, if not, where and who is he? If he didn't do it, then who did, okay? Every movie you see that is biblical, okay? You don't see a so-called Indian playing it. You don't see a so-called Chinese playing everybody, so-called Arab playing everybody, okay? You see the so-called white man, all right? Whether they playing the Messiah, they play Noah, Moses, okay? Or any biblical, look it up, any biblical movie that they have done, okay? They got the so-called white man playing the part, okay? This is part of the deception, as we said. If not, where, who is he? So who did it if it wasn't them, right? Which is a great token of who is controlling the earth right now and who the wicked is on the earth, right? Which is be the so-called white man. And it goes back to their blessing, right, in the book of Genesis. So let's get that. All right, let's go to the book of Genesis, chapter 27. And we're going to start at verse 38.
There's the book of Genesis, chapter 27, and verse 38. And Esau said unto his father, Hast thou but one blessing, my father?
And this was after Isaac blessed Jacob, when Jacob Yaquabbed him, all right, into dressing up as Esau, okay, and he took the blessing. So now Esau found out that the father, that Isaac, blessed him. So he asked him, Do you only have one blessing, my father?
Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept.
You see that? So this nigga started crying, okay? Started wailing like a little girl, crying for another blessing, all right? And unbeknownst to you, for all those that could receive it, okay, Isaac, and that's a lesson for another day, because there's very, intimate details, all right, showing you that Isaac is Yahweh Shai, the Messiah, right? In his before he became Yahweh Shai. So he asked him for a blessing. He asked Isaac for a blessing, right?
And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth.
See that? So thy dwelling shall be thy fatness of the earth. Okay, so you're gonna have the earth and all the riches in it. Okay, that's the fatness of the earth. You're gonna have all the resources. Does not the white man have all the resources? Salakia. Does not the white man have all the resources today on the earth? Of course he does. Okay.
And of the dew of heaven from above.
You see that? And that's air control, and the so-called white man has control of all the air control. You cannot fly a plane, all right, unless they give you the permission to do so. They're trying to go into space, all these space missions, okay? So they got the fatness of the earth and the dew of the heavens, okay? That's the so-called white man, right?
And by thy sword shalt thou live.
You see that? And by thy sword shalt thou live. Now Yahweh Shai did this, right, which was Isaac. Okay, he did this on purpose. Okay, why? Because by Esau living by the sword, he had to die by the sword after, and that's in Revelations chapter 13, verse 9 and 10. Okay, if those that live by the sword shall die by the sword. Okay, so he said, and by the sword shall thou live. Okay, and remember, the Lord is a jinn; he's a trap. Okay, and that's exactly what he did to Esau. Okay, go ahead.
And shalt serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass, when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck.
You see that? So at the end of the day, he's supposed to be a servant anyways. Okay? And that's exactly what's going to happen. All right? Remember, when you go back to when they were born, it said, the elder shall serve the younger. All right? And we know that Esau came out first. So he would be considered, right, the elder out of both of them. Okay? So now that we got that out the way, proven, okay, that Esau, all right, would be the king of the earth, right now, and we see it, right, because the so-called white man is the king of the earth. It's going to come a time when Yahweh Shai comes back, okay, and brings them down to their lowest state, okay, because it was Yahweh, right? It was his will to put them in the place that they're in right now. Okay, they didn't get it because they're some geniuses or Salaki. What's going on here, man? Phone's tripping. So they didn't do this on their own. Even though Esau thinks he did, right? That's why the scripture says that their pride has deceived their heart. Okay, because they think that they got this by their own force and their own will. All right, but the Lord has raised them up. Okay. And let's prove that. Let's prove that real quick. Let's go to the book of Daniel. All right. Chapter 4. Let's go to verse 17, right to the point.
There's the book of Daniel, chapter 4, and verse 17. This matter is by the decree of the watchers, and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men.
See that? So the Most High, Yahweh, okay, ruleth in the kingdom of men. He's the one who makes the decisions, right? Go ahead.
And giveth it to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the basis of men.
The basis.
The basis of men.
Khan. Right? So he set it up over it, the basest of men. Okay? And we know who the base man is. Okay? Pursuing Job chapter 30. Okay? That's Esau, the wicked. Okay? So showing you that the Lord has raised up this man. All right? And put him in a position, right? To rule with a sword in order to bring judgment upon him. All right? Same way that he raised up the Pharaoh. All right, so he could show his power, and that's pursuing Romans chapter 9, okay, where the Lord raised up the Pharaoh so he could show his might, all right, and he could show, his, like I said, his power through the four corners of the earth, okay. That's why he raised them up, okay. This is the vessel fitted for destruction, okay, and that's why right now he's reigning as a ruler, all right, but he's going to be brought down to be a slave. All right, he's going to drink 2 cups, all right, and he's going to serve 1,000 years of a very grievous bondage, all right, slavery. Okay, that's going to be the pits of his hell, all right, and it's gonna come in the form of them thermonuclear missiles. Okay, that's the sword in his perfection, all right, and also those are the weapons of the Lord's indignation. You see. Why? Because the Lord said that he's going to have indignation with Esau, with Edom, right? Forever, which is righteous anger. Okay? And remember, he said also he was going to war with Amalek, okay, from generation to generation in the book of Exodus, all right, chapter 17. All right? So this is how it's going to go down. You see, Yahushua gave him the sword, okay? And that's how that destruction is going to get brought upon him, right? With the sword, okay? So let's go to the book of Isaiah, okay, to prove that as well. Isaiah 24, we're going to start at let's start at verse 20.
There's the book of Isaiah, chapter 24 and verse 20. The earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard, and shall be removed like a cottage.
So the earth is going to move to and fro, right? It shall reel to and fro like a drunkard. You ever seen a drunk man? Drunk man staggers, okay? He can't take 2 steps without going to the side or backwards, okay? So the earth, right, shall reel to and fro like a drunkard. That's when the nuclear missiles hit, okay? It's going to cause an earthquake, all right? Go ahead.
And the transgression thereof shall be heavy upon it, and it shall fall and not rise again.
Right, because oppression shall not rise a second time, okay? The Lord said, again, in Malachi 1:4, that they shall build, but I will throw down. And this is the way that the Lord is going to throw down, as I said, with the weapons of his indignation. And this is going to be the downfall of Esau, okay? And this is going to be the beginning of his bondage, right? Go ahead.
And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall punish the hosts of the high ones that are on high, and the kings of the earth upon the earth.
You see that? So these are the kings, the elites, okay? The elites are going to start getting punished because you average Joe 6-packs. Salakia, let me take this out. I don't want no more interruptions. So the kings of the earth are going to be the first fruits of slavery. Okay? Go ahead.
And they shall be gathered together as prisoners are gathered in the pit.
You see that? So they're going to be gathered as prisoners are gathered in the pit. Okay? Go ahead.
And shall be shut up in the prison. And after many days shall they be visited.
See? So this is how it's going to go down, right? After they have fulfilled, right, their lot, right, of being kings of this lifetime. All right? Why? Because it says in the scriptures, for Esau is the end of the world. Okay? That's going to be the end of their time. All right? Because at the end of the day, the earth is going to abide forever, as the scripture says. All right? So the word world in that context means their time, their eon. Okay? Right? That government arrangement is through. All right? This is how the Lord is going to bring it down. Okay? This is how the Lord is going to bring a king down to slavery. Okay? Especially Esau, because this is how Esau's rulership is prophesied to end, right? Through thermonuclear missiles. All right? And what backs that up? Okay? Because a lot of Christians will come and say, well, that's the Old Testament. Okay? Well, guess what? The New Testament also echoes that. All right, and not only is it the New Testament, but the last book in the book of Revelation, right? So let's go to the book of Revelation, chapter 6, and we're going to start at verse 12.
There's the book of Revelation, chapter 6 and verse 12. And I beheld, when he had opened the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake.
You see that? And there was a great earthquake. This is how the earth is going to reel to and fro. Okay? You see that? This is how the earth is going to reel to and fro. That earthquake, okay, is going to be represent, all right, that destruction. Go ahead.
And the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood, and the stars of heaven fell into the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely
You
figs.
see that? And the stars, all right, of heaven fell onto the earth. Those are the thermonuclear missiles, okay? Because they had that fire, you know, that fire like the tail in the back. It's like seeing a shooting star, all right? You see the tail, okay, sparkling in the back of it, okay? That fire burning, okay? That's going to be how them thermonuclear missiles are coming. That's what John the Revelator saw, okay? It looked like falling stars coming from the heavens, okay? Go ahead.
When she is shaken of a mighty wind, and the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together,
You see that? That's that mushroom cloud when the missiles hit, right?
and every mountain and island were moved out of their places.
You see that? That great earthquake. Okay, go ahead.
And the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the chief captains,
Read that one more time.
and the kings of the earth,
And the kings of the earth. Go ahead.
and the great men, and the rich men,
You see that? The elites.
and the chief captains, and the mighty men, and every bondman, and every freeman, hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains.
You see that? Those are the bunkers. All right. And we know that these elites have been already making these bunkers for a long time ago. Why? Because they understand prophecy. Okay. And they know that World War III is on the way. All right. And that thermonuclear destruction is coming. Okay. Or why else would they build these bunkers? Okay. Right? Because the Lord put it in their spirit as well, because they got to be preserved, all right, to be those first fruits of slavery, okay?
And said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us, and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne.
And this been happening, all right, since Cain became a fugitive. He's been hiding from the face of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. Go ahead.
And from the wrath of the Lamb.
Right? And that wrath of the Lamb, right, is Yahushua coming back. And he said he's not going to meet thee as a man. Okay? He said, behold, he cometh with clouds. Every eye shall see him, even those that pierced him. So the Lord's coming back for vengeance. Okay? With wrath. Okay? On that day. Go ahead.
For the great day of his wrath is come. And who shall be able to stand?
You see that? So the Lord's coming back to make war. All right? And you can read about that in the book of 2nd Ezra chapter 13. All right, where the great multitude is gonna gather, okay, to fight against the man that came out of the sea, the Shemayim, the heavens, okay, and that fathership that Ezra saw, okay. So this is how it's gonna go down, all right. And the elites, they're gonna run into those bunkers thinking that they're safe, all right. And those bunkers ain't gonna be in America because everything in America is gonna burn up, all right. They got their bunkers set up elsewhere, thinking that they're going to survive the nuclear fallout, all right, and they're going to be able to rebuild and build a society again, you know what I mean, and just move on, right, as a drug dealer does, right, he just moves on to the next trap house, okay, and begins his work again. Nah, it's not going to happen like that, okay. You guys are going to get, sought after, all right, by the real world's police, okay, which is going to be the Yahushua, the angels, and the elect. All right, when the Lord gives his men, right, them spiritual powers to go hunt you down out of these rocks, right, out of these bunkers. Okay, so let's prove that. Let's go to the book of Jeremiah. All right, chapter 16 and verse 16.
There's the book of Jeremiah, chapter 16 and verse 16. Behold, I will send for many fishers, saith the Lord, and they shall fish them, and after will I send for many hunters.
You see that? So he's sending many fishers, and those fishers are you men out there, right? Preaching his word in the four corners of the earth, all right? Preaching his word through these digital epistles, all right, that we're fishing, right, for the elect, okay? Go ahead, and Salakia. And after I will send for many hunters, okay? And what are those hunters are going to do?
And they shall hunt them from every mountain and from every hill and out of the holes of the rocks.
You see that? So while you're in there thinking that you're safe and that you got away, okay, the whole time you've been snared once again, all right, by the Lord, right, by Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, okay, preserving you, okay, for the first to be the first fruits of slavery, okay. Now you're gonna go from being kings, all right, to being shackled, all right. Your charge is read, all right, and put on death row, okay. Because at the end of the day, like I said, Obadiah 1 and 18 is going to play out once you serve your sentence, okay? So you're going to be on death row, all right, for 1,000 years, okay? That's as the scripture says, right? So let's go to the book of Psalms, chapter 149, and we're going to start at verse 6.
There's the book of Psalms, chapter 149 and verse 6. Let the high praises of Yahweh be in their mouth, and a two-edged sword in their hand.
You see that? And a two-edged sword in their hand, and that's going to be literal, okay?
To execute.
Salakia, you know what? Start at verse 5, Salakia.
Verse 5, alright. Let the saints be joyful in glory. Let them sing aloud upon their beds.
You see that in the saints? That's talking about you Israelites. Okay, we needed to get verse 5 to get some context of who these people are. All right? Pursuing Psalms chapter 50 and verse 5, the Israelites are the saints. Okay?
Let the high praises of Yahweh be in their mouth, and a two-edged sword in their hand, to execute vengeance upon the heathen, and punishments upon the people.
Go ahead.
To bind their kings with chains, and their nobles with fetters of iron.
You see that? Read that one more time.
To bind their kings with chains.
To bind their kings with chains. Okay, go ahead.
And their nobles with fetters of iron.
You see that? So after you get sought after, okay, hiding in those bunkers, okay, after this place shakes to and fro and you thought you made an escape, all right, the law's going to come down on you, all right? Like I said, you're going to be read your rights, okay? You're going to be put in chains, okay? Go ahead.
To execute upon them the judgment written. This honor have all his saints. Praise they the Lord.
See that? So to execute upon the judgment written, okay? Because you cannot rewrite this. You cannot disannul this. You cannot deflect prophecy. It's going to play out the way it is written, all right? And this honor has all you saints, you Israelites, right, that are part of the elect, part of the 144 governing body, okay, that is going to, be ruling the earth, okay, with Yahweh Shai, okay? This is the honor you're going to receive, okay, for returning back to the Lord, repenting, okay, and separating from the enemy, okay? The kings of the earth will become slaves, all right, which is Esau, because he's the king right now, all right? And they are going to they're going to go back into slavery, right, to their rightful place, okay? So let's close it out with the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 10 and verse 8.
There's a book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 10 and verse 8. Because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit.
You see that? So because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, and we know the so-called white man just came to rob, rape, and murder, right, through the four corners of the earth, especially you Israelites, man, okay? What's going to happen?
The kingdom is translated from one people to another.
See that? So the kingdom is going to be handed over, right, from one people to another, but it's not going to be, that translation is not going to be smooth, right, okay? Because with much violence, right, shall Babylon get overthrown, okay? So it's going to start at a small scale with civil war. World War III is going to pop off. Then Yahweh Shai is coming in the midst of that, okay, to finish the job within 1 hour, all right? That's where the transition is going to happen, okay? And as I said, the hunters are going to hunt, right, these kings, right, from their bunkers, okay, and put them into slavery, all right? This is exactly how it's going to go down, man. So Esau is going to go from kings to slaves, all right? So, Lord willing, the next one I'm going to make one from slaves to kings, which is going to be concerning Israel. Okay, going from the slave, from the state of being slaves right now, being in this current captivity, all right, to being transitioned into the into the kingdom, all right, becoming kings, right, and getting our rightful position on the earth. Lord willing, we're part of that number, right? So, Lord willing, this was edifying, and with that, we're going to give all honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. I want to give double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone for teaching us this truth. And I want to say shalom to the brothers and sisters that are in this truth. Shalom.
Shalom.
Abba Abba.
Abba Abba.
Kwam Yasharala.
Kwame Shirala.
Shalom.
Shalom.